sustainable banking is possible. And that's what they did. And the first question we responded is, how do we call ourselves? Because, you know, some European banks call themselves ethical banks, but ethical is not a word that it's understood the same way in Southern Europe that in Northern Europe. Others call themselves social banks, but if you bring the social bank concept in the United States, they will say you're a communist. That's not exactly what we are talking about. Somebody talked about sustainable banking, but we go even beyond that. So at the end, we said, okay, let's call ourselves values-based banking, because what really defines us is that we have the values of human dignity at the core of our alliance. And that's why we proceed that way, and we decided to call ourselves the Global Alliance for Banking on Values. But if you ask me, what is a bank with values? What is common in the 64 members of the alliance, with Rumin here, with LAPO here, and many other banks all over the world? What is common in them is that they all fit with what we call the 6 principles of values-based banking. And that's very relevant, because it really describes what is values-based banking about. The first principle is that our banks only finance the real economy. It's not about, like, you know, speculation, trading, derivatives, and all other things. I mean, we just state that the money from our depositors has to invest that money in a responsible way. So real economy is first. And we believe that banking is not only about engaging with our borrowers, because it's about connecting people. I mean, it's about connecting the ones who are saving their money and who need to use it, you know, in a reasonable way, and also educating them in the power, the transformational power of their money, so the depositors are also at our core, and of course lend it responsibly. The second principle is that the real economy is great, but it's not enough. Our banks need to, and I have to emphasize what I'm going to say now, our banks have to intentionally lend the triple bottom line way, so that everything or almost everything we do is either environmentally friendly, is socially inclusive, and is really working for the community. It's not only a trending topic. It's not only because it's a profitable need. It's not only because people are pushing. It's because I believe in this. And that's the big difference. Because I believe in human dignity, and because I believe that this planet is the only one we have, that we all have to protect that. And we financial institutions share also this responsibility. So that's why the second principle is triple bottom line approach. The third principle, which is obviously linked to everything before, is transparent, and I would say radical transparency. Radical transparency means at the end that we use depositors' money, and we use this money to lend it. And just because of that, we need to tell our depositors what do we do. The procedures and protocols and policies of the bank. So it's not only about, you know, the typical customer centricity that we hear from mainstream banks, but it's really knowing very well our clients. It's believing in human dignity. It's really understanding what the client's needs are, and also what the risk embedded in this client relationship is about. So this real in-depth understanding of the client is at the core. The fifth principle is that we have to be long-term resilient. And that means that beyond regulation, beyond what regulators are actually asking us to comply with, we need to be more solvent, we need to have a better liquidity, and we need to have a reasonable profitability. So all our banks showed this incredible resiliency. And the last principle, and I should probably have started with this one and not the last one, is that all those 5 things are possible only if the culture of the bank is really supportive of that approach. And the culture is not only about procedures, it's not about policies. The culture is about the human beings on top at the board level, at the management level, every person in every single branch of the bank, they all really need to feel this need of being part of a transformative movement of bankers. So that's about the 6 principles. And that's what we monitor very clearly. And we do a due diligence, we measure this through our scorecard, we have KPIs, and that's what is uniting our 64 members all over the world.
Wow. So you've got radical transparency, you've got long-termism, you've got a culture of a bank. These are very, very hardcore obligations. Godwin, you could have just signed up to the UN Global Compact. Can you tell me your story and your journey, why you decided to join a movement that is so fundamentally and publicly dedicated to sustainability principles within the banking system, and why you thought that could enhance your capabilities as a bank yourself?
Well, as noted by Kenneth at the time when he was presenting the keynote paper, is the fact that LAPO as an organization had its roots in NGO, a non-profit institution. And for many years, our processes and our approach, our mindset was all about people, about people, and about people in the sense that we develop services, that's products that meet their needs. We engage them in a manner that at a point, the customers, if you like, we call them clients, relating with LAPO do not really feel that they are relating with another financial institution, but it's that we are relating with our own organization. So when you have a bank coming out from that background, it was quite easy for us to decide that we needed to take this path of sustainable finance. And when you also look at the principles that you consider the principles that Marcos has outlined, you see that as an active member of the Alliance, we align with those principles. We try to sort of translate those principles, not just what's stated, but into action. I give a particular example. One is the principle that requires that financial institution should focus or lend to the real sector. I give that as an example. And today, if you look at LAPO balance sheets, especially the loan assets, our loan assets account for over 80% of our total assets. So, in that wise, we do not have, much in terms of placement in the bank, speculation and all that. It's all about giving what we have as a loan to people to invest in their businesses and obviously to enhance their condition of living. So, coming to the question of what was our motivation, why do we decide? I have actually stated that earlier, reflected in our rationale. Number one, we strongly believe that our customers require not just protection, but also support. We treat them, we don't treat our customer, for instance, by number. We don't know them by numbers. We actually know them by their names. We relate with them like, people who are part of us. The second reason, the rationale I also noted, was the fact that when it comes to the environment domain of sustainability, we feel strongly that our clients are very active on the environment. That is farming or whatever they do. And so we needed to see how we could support them, we could encourage them to sort of, transforming from being active agents of destruction to active agents of conservation of the environment. So it is for that reason we offer products that support them to sort of move away from practices that tend not to support the environment to that conserve the environment. So these actually were the reasons. In fact, this is where we operate. We consider that these people are active on the environment. We needed to support them.
Before I have many questions, so I can keep going if no one has questions yet. Everyone good? Okay. So my next question to you, unless you have a comment, is I think just moving from sort of to link to the last session. It's a really, again, as I said, this is, when you look at these kinds of industry organizations and these kinds of movements, you have either what's called a big tent, which is aimed to bring many different organizations together under one umbrella technically to develop capabilities, to broaden a message or develop some technologies or capabilities further out in the field. Or you have what's called these sort of more small tent movements, such as yourself, as the Global Alliance on Banking on Values, which is more, again, it's rooted in culture, and there's a strong, from the discussion you've said, there's a strong link to the organizational identity and the organization's missions to achieve that. But when we look at a challenge such as in Nigeria, where you have, as it said, 60 million people who don't have access to finance, how do you think that might limit you, that you're a smaller organization, or does it?
Well, we are represented, as I said, it's like 50 so countries, and of course, and in many countries we have challenges like the ones that we heard of in Nigeria, with 60 million people excluded from the financial industry. And at the end, our role as a global alliance, or as a global movement, is to be supportive of the banks and initiatives in the country, like LAPO, Grameen, and others that are really working on the ground to sort of face those challenges and to grow in a healthy way and in a fast way to give services to those unbanked people. So we do this alliances to have them exposed to other experiences in other parts of the world, technologies that we're using in other countries that can be perhaps used also in Africa, also ways of dealing with those sort of same issues that other countries such as Bangladesh or India or Uganda or Kenya also have, and also by exposing them to those examples or creating their own solutions to step by step be facing that challenge. I think it's a journey. It's a journey, but we as an alliance are trying to create this platform for exchanging ideas, exchanging technology, and exchanging solutions that might help our banks in every single region to face those challenges. And of course, in Nigeria, the main challenge that I heard is sort of this huge challenge of this great amount of unbanked people. In other countries, we have different challenges. But our intention as a platform is to sort of gather all these strengths and gather all these sort of opportunities to face those challenges locally.
I think to sort of lead from Marco's comments there, Godwin, can you maybe give me an example of how some of the sort of challenges that you faced in Nigeria that you were able to learn from banks facing similar challenges in another region? So to repeat the question, to lead off from Marco's comments about learning across different banks across different regions, can you maybe give me an example of how you've been able to draw from another regional experience and the way that banks have organized or worked with the public sector to solve a local problem for your organization.
Well, let me begin by saying that we started much earlier in terms of the implementation of our ESG activities before we became a member of the Alliance. In that wise, we have had relationship and learning from a number of institutions, not necessarily associations. For instance, we have a strong relationship with IFC, which in the process, supported that process of implementation. But since we became a member of the Alliance, I have had opportunity to attend two major conferences. One in Africa here, hosted in Uganda, and that provided us, opportunity to learn more, and if you like, to enrich whatever we have been doing. But more recently, and I would say also more beneficial, was the global meeting that was held earlier this year. That provided, again, us the opportunity to relate with not just microfinance institution or institution in Africa, but opportunity to, meet and interact and listen to people from different range of financial institutions, the credit union, the big banks in Europe, in Latin America, in Asia. And that was a huge, learning. Again, other discussion like, access to information, access to materials have equally one way or the other helped us to do that. But, one thing that being a member of the Alliance have done to us is to see how we could see beyond what we are doing as an organization, to see how we can become an advocate, for sustainable bank finance. It is for that reason, maybe one of that, realizing that desire now to do that is we, put this conference together. That we have seen that sustainable finance is no longer just a nice thing to do, but I think it's also profitable one way or the other to do. And we want to, sort of speak to others. We want to, present what we have done to others and let other institutions also make the commitment that we have made. To a large extent, we can ascribe this to my contact and also relationship with the Alliance, especially Marcos.
Are there any questions from me? Please. Lady in the blue.
Thank you very much. Rekia Yusuf, the head of Implementation Committee on Nigerian Sustainable Banking Principle in Central Bank of Nigeria. I want to first of all, commend LAPO for taking the initiative and for this conference. And I want to use the opportunity also to ask the lead discussant, Donatali, because I was itching to ask the question in your previous outing, and I didn't have that opportunity. Sustainable finance has come to stay globally, and we are glad that LAPO is leading in this aspect. The introduction did tell us that you are from Canada, and we know that Canada is doing a lot in financial inclusion. And in your last outing, you also told us that you are an expert in asset management. And we're looking at how has Canada deepened financial inclusion? particularly leveraging on innovation in fintech. And how can that help Nigeria and the regulator? Because when you talk about the role of the government, I think the central bank will be doing a lot on behalf of the government to deepen financial inclusion as he has been doing. And how will that help sustainable financing in the micro businesses, in particular building the confidence of the people? Because we have seen a number of things that LAPO is doing to build the confidence of the people, because they are people focused. But what is Canada experience? I want you to just take our mind to see what Canada has done in this respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma, for that question. We want the Canada experience here before we go there.
Thank you for that question. I should say I'm from Canada, but I have not lived there in 20 years, so I'm unable to answer it. I was last in the UK and the Netherlands, and of course they're also very. The government is also very active in terms of financial inclusion. I think you've asked a very big question, though, which is not necessarily linked to this panel, and what I would suggest is maybe we link up and talk a bit further to discuss. But the short answer is I think there's a lot of learning out there from OECD countries in terms of the types of incentives that can be offered to different types of investors, not the microfinance kind of institution, it's a special institution. But the key question, and I think it's been raised by a number of panelists here, is how you design that in the Nigerian context so it's fit for purpose, so it meets, because, you know, again, when we're talking about Canada or we're talking about Netherlands or the UK, everybody has a bank account, everybody is literate, everybody has access to a phone, so, I mean, broadly speaking. So these are different challenges, and you have to really fine-tune it to start looking at it. So I think it's probably a better conversation for us to have one-on-one in that respect. So, but thank you very much for the question, and I'm afraid I can't answer the Canada side specifically. Okay, any other interactive questions? That made it very interactive, though, so thank you. Okay. So I'm going to continue moving on, asking the questions that I have for Marco and Godwin on the stage. But again, as I said, any question is welcome. Okay. So the next, we've talked about so far the sort of the very tight identity of the group that you're working together, and the type of learning practices, the advocacy that's associated with that. I think, and Godwin, you started to get into it when you talked about a global conference that happened in Vancouver earlier this year. What I understand is there's some exciting initiatives that have come out. That's one of the benefits of getting together when you have very aligned organizations, is that you can really work very tightly and develop initiatives that are global in scope and high impact. So I'd love to hear from both of you a little bit more about what those initiatives are from the organization standpoint, and then again what it means as a financial institution trying to implement them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we were hosted by the Van City Credit Union in Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada, in a very much Canadian sort of West Coast flavor. So we really experienced that, flavor just in February this year, not so long ago, only a few months ago, and we had some African colleagues, and Godwin was amongst them, and also other African colleagues were there. The theme of the event in Vancouver, in which we were celebrating our 10th anniversary, it's something I really want to share with you, because it says a lot about the nature of our organization, because the theme of the event was exactly as follows: migrants, Me Too, and melting ice caps, redefining banking for a radically different future. That was the theme, which, believe me, I mean, for many bankers, there were 700 people attending, and in a big public event, also open to Canadian stakeholders. There were like almost 1,500 people, so it's a huge, huge event. But for many people, it was the first time ever, the first time in their lives, that they have attended a banking conference that was so humanly designed, and there was thought just for humans, and thinking of banking not as a business, but as a tool to improve human quality of being. So it was very, very special thing. And we have these 700 people working together, regulators, bankers, civil society, academicians, thinking together and working together on how to redefine the banking industry. And by the way, if you all like, you can download from our website, and it's free, a book that we publish with the outcomes of the event. You can look at our website, you will find it. It's a beautiful 100-page book. It's pretty, also with, ideas for regulators, for bankers, for academicians, for media even. And you can also download a film, a 1-hour film, with the main outcomes of the event. So it's free at your disposal. But it's not only about sharing things, it's not only about sharing thoughts, it's only about practical and tangible initiatives. And in Canada, in Vancouver, the Global Alliance for Banking on Values decided to support what we call the 3C commitment, which is the sort of carbon disclosure commitment. The Global Alliance and its members, and LAPO is one of them, by the way, decided to join a platform that is creating a methodology to measure carbon footprint of banks all over the world. Now we have close to 70 banks all over the world, not only the Global Alliance banks, but also big banks, ABN AMRO, Amalgamated, First Run in South Africa, plenty of other banks who have decided to join just to agree on how to measure carbon footprint, not the carbon footprint of my direct operations, but the carbon footprint of my portfolio. So the whole portfolio of assets with its measure. And the agreement of those banks is to have this methodology become an industry standard in 3 years, and to disclose all this carbon footprint in 3 years also. And that's a practical thing, because if you are transparent and you disclose your carbon footprint and you tell your stakeholders and your central bankers and your clients, hey guys, this is my carbon footprint, the whole portfolio of assets carbon footprint, things start to change very rapidly. Because the Global Alliance is not only financing change, which is what we all do, is what LAPO is doing, is what Green is doing, is trying to finance people who change things on the ground. But we as Global Alliance, we also have to finance change, and change finance. Because if we change finance, if we change the banking industry, we will finance change. So this duality is crucial.
That's incredible. I just have one follow-up question. Again, I come from a financial institution that was trying to look at its carbon footprint as well of its portfolio, and the one, we measured it, but the one challenging area to get any consensus about was targets. Is there also an expectation to have a target for reducing the footprint over time?
Yes. Yes, the platform, the Partnership for a Carbon Accounting Financial, that's what it's called. It's PCAF. You can also look at the website of PCAF. It's based on the science-based target approach. Yes, it's going to have a science-based target for carbon footprint in the coming 2-3 years. So yes, we will have targets.
Thank you. And Godwin, again, this is a very ambitious target, and I know that some institutions out there are lean operators. How is your experience so far, and how do you expect to have the capacity to implement such an ambitious target?
Okay. I want to begin with what I could consider as the takeaway from that Vancouver conference. The thing was that I was attending for the first time. That was quite clear. And Marcos, organized a number of persons in practice and also in research to have a sort of interaction. We have one-on-one discussion in and outside the sections. And those were also quite eye-opening for me to see what we could do to sort of enhance the various activities we have been implementing in the three dimensions of financial, environment, and social well-being. The other, I think Marcos probably would also speak more to that, is that there's also this realization that there is need to support institutions, perhaps smaller institutions, like funding, support, or whatever. And so commitments was made to, have additional funds to the fund of the alliance, the fund of the alliance, which I believe that will provide opportunity not only for LAPO, perhaps other institutions, especially in other regions, Africa and Asia, to assess, funding support for the implementation of their programs, especially programs that are related to sustainability. That with hope that will be of benefit for us, and although also institutions, grooming us already within the group, we expect that at the end of this conference, we will have more institutions making commitments to sustainable finance.
That's really exciting to hear that you have that kind of facility to support the smaller organizations and bring them on board. It's really, really impressive. Before I ask, I have some concluding questions, but I'm wondering if anyone in the audience might have a comment or a question.
Comment or question from any member of the audience, please?
Okay, I'm going to continue. I think we have a couple minutes left. And I think one of the reasons why we're here today is not only to talk about LAPO and its experience with the Global Alliance on Banking on Values, but also I think as some of you may know, one of the most exciting, in addition to the carbon footprinting initiatives and the initiatives that have come out of the Vancouver conference, but one of the most exciting initiatives that's going to be launched in the coming days and months is a West Africa chapter of the Global Alliance on Banking on Values. And I'm really excited to hear from both of you more about how that will look, who the members will be, and what the plan is for the kinds of activities that you will have going forward, particularly those related to inclusive finance and developing a more sustainable finance framework for the microfinance sector.
Just before going through that, I mean, I just remember a conversation that Godwin and I had last night at dinner that I think it's relevant to, perhaps mention today, and Godwin will probably develop a little bit more. I mean, he asked me a question. He said, but Marcos, what do you think about, the ESG, environmental, social, and governance? Because at the end, is the ESG, the three factors, equally important in all countries? Or do you feel that, for instance, in countries such as Nigeria or West Africa, is there any of those three factors more important than others? And we had a very interesting conversation. Because it was not so easy to answer, I mean, that depends a lot on the country, and in some countries, I mean, obviously governance is a big thing, because you need to strengthen that in order to have a solid, healthy, and transparent banking system. But then when you look on the other two, E&S, social or financial inclusion, let me call it that way, and environmental issues, is it one or the other which is more important? And at the end, I think that we all agree that I think that the two of them are equally important. Because can you consider like socially inclusive financial industry without taking in consideration environmental things? I mean, especially in Lagos, we heard very recently about the threat of the races of the sea, potential threat in some areas of the world. Bangladesh, Lagos were amongst the more threatened. So can we really do S without the E? So at the end, conclusion was the two of them are equally important. And I feel that that's something that we need to also discuss in the African chapter. How do we, in a balanced way, treat environmental and financial inclusion issues within the African banks? But perhaps, Godwin, you can say a few more things on that topic.
For me, I strongly believe that as a region in Africa and also Asia, there's so much to do when it comes to the issue of sustainability. We were having this conversation about, out of the three dimensions, which do you think tend to be more relevant to our environment? For me, I look at environment as very critical. There's so much, like I said earlier, the way people engage the environment, the way they interact with the environment, whether in farming or as a source of energy, they tend to, have huge impact on the environment, and we needed to see how we can do that. We also look at I also prioritize the social dimension. We had today that you have the global warming, and eventually we equally probably having social warming. When you look around the terms of the tension and all that. So it is not just about just doing it. I think we need to get involved. And the critical mass, we need the critical mass. It's not just about grooming, it's not about LAPO. We need larger number of institutions doing whatever we're doing. Again, not just even within the financial sector, but even the industry. There are a lot other industry can also sort of adopt this sustainability practices and principles. So for us, it is not just that we need to deepen the activities of the Alliance by having a West African regional chapter, but we need it urgently.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions from the audience? Okay, I'm going to close with one final question. I think you've given me a very convincing story about why we need a West Africa chapter for the Global Alliance on Banking, on Values. I'm going to ask you, if we are going to meet next November 7th, 2020, and you tell me what have you achieved over the last year, what are you going to tell me?
Well, I would say that we have an established chapter with at least like twice as many members as we have at that moment, which is like 8 to 10. With more countries represented, I think that in Nigeria we should grow because it's a huge economy and it's quite relevant in West Africa. But we also need members from other countries, and very especially because this is a journey. It takes time. I mean, the Banking and Values movement is a movement that is growing very quickly, but it takes time to get more and more mature. So what I would like to see ahead of this growth is that the members, this sort of 8 to 10 members, start cooperating in tangible projects to improve the way they bank in their own communities. So I'm a little bit humble, but I know that's the way it works. I mean, in 2-3 years, it really explodes.
Well, if I clearly understand this, my report card will show that we've been able to put an event together like this, but more importantly, we're able to have more commitment, institution making commitments to this cause. Institutionally for LAPO, we'll continue to deepen our activities around the various dimensions that we have made our commitment to as an institution.
Well, just a very short thing since we are about to close, I assume. It's just a coincidence that this week, and precisely today, the 7th of November, the Global Alliance for Banking and Values is celebrating, as we do every year, the Banking on Values Day. And the Banking on Values Day means that our 64 members all over the world are organizing, events, not as big as this one, but it's more events with clients, with regulators, with stakeholders, with co-workers of the different banks to promote what values-based banking is about. So this is probably one of the biggest events in the world today, and if you are curious about it, just follow the hashtag, and if you want to tweet anything, use the hashtag Banking on Values. If you are curious about it, follow that hashtag. You will see today thousands and thousands of things being said in Italy, Bolivia, El Salvador, the USA, Uganda, Kenya, and many, many other countries. And you are part of the crowd, you are part of the celebration, so thank you for that.
I did not know we were celebrating today. It's very exciting to be, so I think I'm going to close now. I know we're over time, so I'm going to close by saying Happy Banking on Values Day. I will certainly be following the hashtag and look forward to, in the spirit of radical transparency, hearing about your accomplishments this time next year on the same celebration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, can we put our hands together for them for that interactive session? Thank you very much, Dr. Natalie, Dr. Marcos, and Dr. Godwin. Thank you very much.